Okay, we are back to talk about Murderbot on Apple TV Plus, Episode 5, Rogue War Tracker Infinite. This episode written by Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz and directed by Paul Weitz. After the events of Episode 4, Mensa and the Preservation Alliance crew are able to revive and save Murderbot inside their habitat. Shortly after, Labibi, who claims she is from the Deltfall expedition that was massacred, arrives and confirms that her team was killed by Sec units. The Alliance accepts her into their camp, where she develops a very strange infatuation with Murderbot. When removing the wires from the override module, Gareth then discovers that Murderbot has hacked its governor module even before it became a part of their team. Gareth and Mensa debate on whether to still trust Murderbot. They're surprised to learn just how many hours of TV shows it's been watching since it gained its freedom. The team believes there must be some kind of hostile third party on that planet, and they believe they need to activate the emergency beacon to be rescued. It is damaged, so they have to go activate it by hand. Mensa and Murderbot fly to the location of the beacon. The episode ends with the beacon exploding just as the two arrive. Halfway through the season, we get the fact that the crew has learned the reveal that Murderbot is no longer has a governor module and has some freedom. We
Yeah.
get a new character introduced. I don't know. Is this read the piece that you put up on TV Obsessive? Is this going maybe at the pace that you thought you would, answering the questions you thought we'd have answered by now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pace is good. I think the pace is good. Because I think we can kind of see where the latter half of the season will go
Hmm.
just as a sketch, as
Yeah.
kind of outline. I haven't watched it yet. But I think it makes sense, right? Because now we've gotten to the point where um our human being friends, the Preservation Alliance, know that Murderbot has free will, right?
Right.
And two, things have sort of come to a head in terms of the threat against them, even though we don't know what's behind that as of yet, right? Who attacked Doubtfall,
Right.
and then presumably that same person or group sabotaged the emergency beacon, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so who are they and why? I imagine we will start to find out better in the next episode or two, and then things will
Yeah.
really kind of come to a head to wrap up the season. So I think it's paced pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear path that we're going, and now we can do it without I guess, the cover of Murderbot having to hide certain things. It's sort of the added challenge of how do we discover what this third party is, how to discover how to escape them, how to discover how to escape where we are with all of these challenges ahead of us. And we've got this sec unit that we have to decide whether or not to trust or understand what his motivations are, what is it doing from this point from this point forward. Um, so yeah, I think that I was thinking about this idea of doing this reveal now versus doing it towards the end of the season. I think it makes sense now because we really need to start finding out some answers as to what does it mean when this unit has free will and what has happened in its past to get it to this point. We got some of those flashbacks. So yeah, thought that the pace and the timing of what happened in this one was appropriate.
Yeah, and to the extent that the show is sort of about the relationship between Murderbot and the human beings, that needs to progress. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not resolved completely because there's definitely still, I don't know, there's awkwardness,
Hmm.
and there's that kind of question, I think, from Murderbot's point of view, even of, oh, well, you mean now I can be myself? What's that like? How do I
Yeah.
do that? Right.
It
Um,
makes an interesting comment, to your point, as he and Mince are flying to the beacon. Well, this is an unusual experience to have a conversation that's not regurgitating facts or responding to orders. And so, yeah, I find so many interesting things as I get watch more and more of these episodes about, oh, I see myself in Murderbot when I think about interacting with or having to deal with different types of people, some that I appreciate and some that I enjoy, and some that I just find, oh my God, I want to get out of this situation as fast as possible.
yeah. I mean, how do I do that? How do I navigate the
Yeah,
problem and
right.
so on and so forth, right? And of course, we've talked about before how the story is rather explicitly playing on themes related to autism and things like that, right? Which I think
Yeah.
factors in here. However you want to take that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, neurodivergence, whatever. But that, I certainly think you could read it along those lines of, oh, okay, well now Murderbot doesn't really have to do masking so much, but then maybe still sort of, or you still like how do you navigate those social situations, right? The Murderbot still doesn't really know how to do that. So I'm enjoying all of that, but you do get also, I think in the same scene you're talking about, when it's talking to Mensa,
Hmm.
it decides to just be honest, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, because she says something like, "Oh, maybe they knew the people. How did they get in there at Delphal?" And he's like, "You'd do it. You'd be stupid like that."
Exactly.
This just like lays out it. And she's, well, I guess you're right. And he's like, yeah, yeah, you mean they're stupid, naive creatures. Um, I do wonder whether what Murderbot says there is right. It makes sense,
Yeah.
right? But this is one of the big questions, and I did try to explore this in my recap article on tvobsessive.com a bit. People want to look at that of you have Murderbot's kind of speculative account of what happened at Delphal,
Hmm.
imagining that some other group showed up and acted like they were the Preservation Alliance needing help or
Yes.
whatever. You have Lee Beebe's account, um, which tracks in many ways with what we saw there.
Yeah.
Um, but then I think there's a question, and maybe it does center on Labibi and uh, you know, uh, I thought it was funny to see on our show sheet in the notes here, you were already on the same page with me, right? Because you have put your notes down first in being suspicious of Labibi. And you put that on there before you read my article. I know that because it wasn't published yet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You think Labibi, did she do it? Is she
Yeah, I think
the
there's just
culprit?
a pretty common trope of, oh, the one person who survived the whole thing ends up being, one of the reasons why it happened. So I think just, radar is up a little bit when you see something like that. I mean, this person could be putting on their own mask and their own sort of affront of who they are, but she says, I'm not very smart. All I did was the maintenance and the laundry. I don't, and they're kind of surprised that, oh, there's someone like that on your crew. So it's just sort of coming up with a story of sorts to try to pass off as an innocent person in this whole situation. But yeah, I mean, just very, very suspicious of Labibi's just sudden show up and just be just fine after this massacre.
Yeah, so it's like possibility one is that she's telling the truth
Hmm.
and ran away outside once the shooting started or
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
and managed to hide and survive. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know.
Would the
But
sec units not have these advanced sec units not have caught that or understood what was happening there? I mean, perhaps, I guess.
the bad guy won, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because where was that bot when Murderbot arrived at Doubtfall? It seems like it was somewhere else, maybe
Yes.
outside. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
maybe like kind of keeping tabs on it. Um, I don't know. Maybe there was even some extent to which there was a thought of this being a trap for the Preservation Alliance. I don't know. I don't know for sure. We don't know who's behind this. Labibi refers to that bot as a sec unit, which
Hmm.
was noteworthy to me because I wasn't sure if it was. I mean, like it's obviously a robot
Yeah. Yeah.
or of whatever kind, but it doesn't seem to look like the other sec units.
Right.
I don't know if there's any weight to put on that or not. Right. I'm just imagining the possibility that it was Labibi who showed up and well, asked for help or whatever, got them to open the door, and then here comes the bot and behind her, and it could have just been the two of them.
Yeah. Just an innocent, doesn't look like can cause any harm Trojan horse that, yeah, is going to cause this group trouble, at least the ones that have stayed behind, while Mintz and Murderbot have gone off to the beacon.
Yeah. So maybe not, like I don't know, maybe, maybe not. It's definitely a trope And it's a question then of, I guess, well, is Murderbot the series going to just follow out that trope with Labibi, or is
Yeah.
it that Murderbot the series is aware of that trope, knows that we're going to be starting to suspect Labibi, and no, actually, she's innocent, and because there's this
Yeah.
other element that I think also, because we're in Murderbot's perspective so much, kind of turns us off because she's like sexually attracted to it or whatever, and it's just like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is yeah, just we want you thinking about other things about this person and not the fact that it could be the brains or the cause behind what happened to Deltfall. But yeah, just a very odd, just attraction, infatuation with Murderbot, and doesn't mind sharing it or letting it know.
I mean, Alexander Skarsgård's a handsome man.
Yes, yeah,
And can't deny that. She says, "Well, I didn't know that they had faces." She's seeing the Skarsgård face, and she's like, "Oh." And there's that humor too. I feel like there's an element of the humor of the show, and something that's actually relatively central to the show and the watching experience that we haven't talked about a lot because maybe it feels like there isn't a lot to say about it, but
yeah, yeah,
things like her wondering whether or not Murderbot has a penis, and all of the stuff
yeah,
with the polycule of between all that kind of stuff is there, and I think important to the overall vibe of the show. But
yes.
I think our tendency is to focus a bit more on, I don't know, what's going on in terms of the plot, or at a more kind of conceptual or philosophical level of question or something like that. But I don't know. Other thoughts about Labibi?
Just just I don't know. Too many odd individual small things that I think put together and make a puzzle of not things not lining up to the story that she's telling. So I think we don't have too much other than some very unusual activity with Murderbot here and just some weird conversations. So I think that's very much a red herring, but very much on suspicious alert there.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with that.
Yeah, me
You know,
too.
because I definitely think that, like, I don't know. Seems almost 50-50. I can't recall now if the line even made it into my article, but at one point I was playing with the line of like, is there some extent to which I'm suspicious of her because her name is silly?
Right, right.
It really is a question of, is it because of who she is as a character and how that plays that feel some distrust towards her as a person, that but then also like, is that fair? I think
Yeah,
they're doing something really interesting with Libby overall, and
yeah.
I am entertained by the performance and all of that as well. Let's see some other stuff that is kind of funny but also maybe has a little bit more to it. um Garathan doesn't believe how much TV Murderbot was watching. Like, oh, this is it. Surely it's been sending secret messages.
Right.
Could not possibly have watched this much content, but um, Brathy kind of tests it with deep cut from Sanctuary Moon,
Yeah,
and
you get some. Do you really know the plot details and what are your opinions on one of the controversial moments of this yeah, very elaborate soap opera? So Murderbot is ready. He is on the case with his opinions on that. So pass that test at least.
yeah, Brathy's distrust. I mean, ultimately, it's interesting because I really think that the argument that you get from the other side, from Mensa and Bardawaj, um, is the better argument, right? They're like,
Mhm.
well, if it's Governor Module's been disabled the whole time, then that's more of a reason to trust the sec unit, not
Yeah,
less of a reason.
yeah, yeah.
Um, at the same time, I mean, Grafton has something of a point, right? It's okay. You've got um, this technologically advanced sec unit that could kill us at any time, and now we know that well, yeah, it could. Like if it decided to, it just could do that, right? It's not.
And it's having a conversation telling them how naive humans can be, and yet just minutes, hours earlier, they brought this thing that was saying it was going to kill all of them onto the ship with them. And yeah, this is the sec unit version of yeah, opening your door and letting the innocent person come in.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how that plays out, and with Garathan in particular, because then also there's the fact that Murderbot starts choking him and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Right towards the end of this episode, Mensa's trying to bring that up as something they're gonna have to work through for the sake of their group dynamics, and they're gonna get out some crunchy granola, and we got to kumbaya this out somehow. But then the beacon explodes, um, and we'll see where it goes from there, right? Beacon
Yeah,
explodes, that means that they cannot make contact with the corporation to get evacuated from the planet, which is what they wanted to do.
right.
So they'll have to just go back to their habitat, and then one imagines they will encounter
Yeah.
whatever this third party is, because
Exactly. And yeah, this let me be the mole in that whole situation, or yeah, there's something hovering beyond just the robot slash sec units that have been destroyed already by the Hopper and by Murderbot. Yes, there surely is still some entity out there that is waiting for them or looking for them.
yeah, certainly be the most straightforward thing if
Yeah,
it was Labibi, but others may be involved here, and I presume we'll find out. And then the bigger question that I'm interested in is why? Why
yeah,
do they care? Like, what's on this planet? We had that relatively brief mention several episodes ago about the possibility of there being alien technology, but we still don't even really know what they're talking about there, who these
right.
aliens are or were, or what the status of that is. Our characters seem to know more than we've learned as an audience so
Yeah,
far
that's the one
about
thing that I
them.
wish if this is going to be the MacGuffin, whatever it is that's on this planet, I wish you knew a little bit more about what it was and why there might be competing forces fighting for it, looking to control it. I think that's one thing I'd like a little bit more information on in the episodes ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I'm hoping, or almost expecting, that will come, and maybe those two
Yeah,
things will kind of come together,
yeah.
you know. Um, who the threat is and why, and so on. Um, I have a note on here about Rathy's line calling him Seki. I don't know what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, just um, the the Radley character is so interesting to me. I mean, it's not a. I'm trying to think what to compare it to. It's not obviously not a robot. It's not a sec unit. But it's a I don't know mechanically enhanced human. I mean, how exactly would you describe that member of the team?
Um, who now? Murderbot? What Seki?
Uh, the isn't it Gur
Oh,
is
you're talking about Garathan.
Garathan and Rathy are the same person, right? So Rathy is just
No,
they're not the same person?
no, they're different. They're
Oh,
different
Rath. Oh,
person.
okay, that's right. I thought Rathy was Garathan's nickname,
So,
but
but
you're
you
right.
were talking about Garathan.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Yeah,
Garathan. Sorry.
that's it. I mean, it's kind of an interesting question because he's somehow enhanced or something, and
Yeah.
whatever the details are of that, cybernetically enhanced human being,
Yeah, the description
uh,
of him online in the TV or the description is augmented human. I mean, beyond
augmented human.
whatever
Yeah.
that means, I don't know.
It's really interesting because it would seem like, okay, well, this is a possibility in this world that you could get whatever kind of cybernetic implants that would allow you to, well, yeah, I don't know, interface with
Yeah, yeah,
technology in a direct way, something like that.
yeah.
Murderbot is like dismissive of this. It's like,
That's right.
is it
That's right.
way less advanced than Murderbot is?
Right, right.
But it is interesting that that's there because, on the other hand, there's the question of, well, what's going on with these sec units like Murderbot, who
Yes.
also are, have a biological element. And we saw a bit of their construction and whatever they're doing of like
Yeah.
taking limbs from corpses. Who knows what they're doing exactly, but to put it together. Um, where was I going with that thought? It's almost like Garathan is a biological human being with a little bit of tech, and
Yes.
Murderbot is a robot with a little bit of humanity because of
Yeah. Just a face and yes, genderless body of humanity. The rest is mechanical, but yeah, just a little bit of mechanical augmentation for Garathan. I think that's right.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Like with Murderbot, like is there a human brain in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Because
know.
part of me can't help but think that the reason that there is this biological element to the sec units is because that's the only way they can really make it work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That they like cannot create fully artificial silicone androids, or maybe they can, but they wouldn't have a sufficient level of self-awareness or cognitive functioning or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the solution is this kind of Frankenstein monster cyborg sort of thing where you need the biological element for it to work right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's right.
but yeah, no. So Rathi is the other guy, the
Yes.
one
Okay. You're
who's
right.
in
You're right.
the one who's in the thruple, right?
That's right.
Um, and well, I guess what I was thinking out here is there's one point where he's talking to the BB and he's like, "We're friends with this sec unit. You wouldn't understand
Yeah.
because you're from the corporation, whatever." And I'm just thinking about that whole attitude of the Preservation Alliance and the way in which it feels like I know people like this or have
Yeah.
known people like this. I was
Yes.
trying to think about how to describe it, and their whole model is supposed to be one of consensus,
Yes. Yeah.
but then in practice you hit points where of course that doesn't work. It's like Mensa's the leader.
Right.
What did she say? Something like, if she doesn't make it back, Raba's first among equals.
Yeah. Yeah. First among equals. Well, that's not exactly the all equals.
So I don't know. I was just thinking about that whole kind of vibe and how to describe it, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
if what a good term is. I keep thinking of things like Frenchy granola, but I don't know if that lands. I don't know if anyone will be offended by
Right.
that.
Right.
The consensus model also made me think about. Do you ever dip in at all with the Occupy protests and stuff?
No, not really. Not really.
I think maybe because I was in New York City and I was like, I'll go. It's like I want to go see what's going on,
Yeah.
and I never went and camped out in Zuccotti or whatever, but I went down there and checked it out and went to a couple of things. And that whole model, I remember having conversations with some of my friends,
Yeah.
who, of course, I mean, bear in mind here, Ryan, when I say my friends, I mean, we're all philosophy graduate
Right.
students, right? But having some conversations along these lines because Occupy, that group with Occupy was very committed to the idea of consensus in
Right.
any decision making, right? And they did the
Right.
whole
Right.
hand waving thing and so on. Anyway, I remember my friend Marianne, who was very politically, I don't know, politically active, but also in terms of thinking about political philosophy and so on. Sorry, I'm stumbling around here a little bit. But anyway, I just always sticks with me. Her critique in particular was of that consensus model.
I
And
see.
I
Yeah.
just recall her saying that when it comes down to it, that demand for consensus, she claimed, is like really kind of totalitarian.
Hmm.
Um, so it's interesting to me how the show kind of plays with that a little bit. And it puts me in mind thinking back to some of those questions where,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
on the one hand, the idea of we all have to agree about what we're going to do seems very inclusive.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it creates a lot of pressure on like the one person who doesn't agree,
Right.
right? To say like, well, you have to agree so that we can do things, right? And potentially then you're taking away my freedom to be the minority
Yeah.
dissenting party, right? Like, all right, the group as a whole is going to go ahead and do the thing anyway, I just want to note I didn't agree,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whereas if you're really demanding consensus, if it's like, well, no, now everyone's fully implicated. So I don't know. It's just something I got to thinking about a little bit here. Um, Other thoughts on this episode, or I don't know if you have a response to what I was
Yeah,
just saying.
that looks like about it. We once again came in. These all seem to be. You could just plop these down on network television. I mean, they're all exactly within like 10 seconds of each other in terms of the length, right at 22 and a half minutes. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
halfway through. I think we've gotten, as we discussed, a good pace. A couple things we'd like to know more about. But I think this is where things will really get interesting now that we've got every character established. We know a lot about them. And now we have the reveal that there is no Governor Module in the second unit. Where do we really get? Does a lot of that inner monologue come out as sort of conversation? I think that should be interesting to see.
yeah, it should be. And you're right. I mean, the 22-minute episode, feel like the history of that is because a half hour on network TV, and then you've got like 8 minutes of commercials.
Hmm.
That's not what we've got here. Not if you're watching Apple TV Plus,
Right.
right? But yeah, I appreciate the short episodes,
Yeah.
and there's a good amount in here still to think through and talk about and all of that. So cool. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. We'll be back next week talking about episode 6. Um, if you enjoyed listening, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Check out tvobsessive.com. I am writing recap articles on Murderbot there each week that you can read if you're interested in doing so. All kinds of other written work available there as well on various TV shows. So I'd encourage you to poke around. Follow TV Obsessive on social media. Search for TV Obsessive. You should find us on, whatever platform you're using. And we'll be back next week.
Yep. Looking forward to that. See you for episode 6.